Turn on original sound. Okay, I need to improve the lighting. And can you get rid of those bags that are hanging behind me, please? I cannot see my own face, so I gotta put some sort of a light in front of me.
Could we shut this condenser? No.
No, this is fine. That's good enough. Okay. Thanks. See the waiting room. Very nice. I'm gonna wait to admit you. Just a little less glare in my glasses, that's okay.
Do you have your computer on Do Not Disturb notifications?
No.
If you take 2 fingers and swipe from the right edge of your trackpad to the left, from outside the trackpad. Then up.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll up. Scroll up. The whole vocabulary of how to tell people what to do on a computer has changed.
Mm-hmm. There's Benny. Hi, Benny.
What did it say? It's recorded.
It is recording. It's just telling you that it's recording. How are you?
Okay, I'm nervous.
Okay. Don't be...
My English, everybody says I don't speak English. Robert Kivel says he still doesn't speak English.
You speak Chazanut.
Robert Kivel.
Anyway, so here we are. Here's my speech.
Okay. Very good. So here's what we're going to do. Let me go over what my plan is, and then you tell me if you want me to change my plan, okay? So here's my plan. My plan is, in a few minutes, I'm going to start admitting people to the room, but I am not going to allow people to unmute themselves. They're going to remain on mute the whole time. I'll encourage them, if they want to let us know where they're here from, like just tell us what city they're from, or if they've been to any other Cantors Assembly events before we start. And then at about 5:03 or so, I'll welcome everybody to the Cantors classroom, tell them it's so great to see them here, and then introduce you with a very short bio at your request. Short but sweet. And then it's all yours. And you'll be ready to, you'll share your screen when you're ready to share your screen. You know how to stop sharing your screen when you want to stop sharing your screen.
Hillary, can I share the screen now to see if it works?
That would be a very good idea.
So I did. I share the screen. Nothing happened.
No, you got to go to the green button below my face. On Zoom. You'll
Okay,
get.
But I opened the.
Open the PowerPoint.
Okay, so.
And then go back to Zoom. Click on my face again. Right.
Okay, and now what?
Go back to Zoom. So now you see us talking again.
I just see you. I don't see myself.
Well, yeah, you see me. And then do you see the share screen, the green button in the bottom middle?
Yeah. Oh, okay, so here's share screen.
Now share your PowerPoint.
No, I don't understand. It's not.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. How you doing?
Can I, how do I get, I need to take this off in order to open, but I opened the screen. Host describe participant screen sharing.
Oh, I've got to enable your sharing. Hang on.
See where they're doing under security?
I don't understand. The other day it worked.
Yeah,
Okay. The
because
best thing to do is to make Benny a co-host, and that way you don't have to enable screen sharing for anybody else.
exactly. That's what I'm gonna do right now. Benny, go for it. Go ahead and try, okay? That's why we're here doing this right now.
I don't understand what you're saying.
I just changed the settings that you can try it, okay?
But you know what? I don't see my PowerPoint here. Holy ghost. It's ridiculous.
Plenty of time.
I don't see anything. I don't see my PowerPoint. The other day I did.
Well, you have to have, if it's not selected, or if it's not active as the window, the last window you were looking at before you went into Zoom, you may not see it as readily.
So can I minimize this and open
Yeah, go
my
minimize this. You can minimize this and go into, go find your PowerPoint.
Mhm.
Okay, now okay. So now
And then you can go back to Zoom and try sharing screen again. There you go. Perfect.
okay, so but I don't want to have this on before I start talking.
Right. So we'll have you do this. This was just to test run it. So before we have you stop sharing your screen, I want you to test the sound so we can make sure we hear it. Can you test it and make sure you click that schma so we can hear it?
That's the maximum here.
Thank you. Okay, so let's stop the screen share.
Was that, I'm just wondering, was that selecting computer sound, or was that coming through Benny's speakers?
So that's actually it. He's got it set right. We tested it the other day.
Okay.
Apparently that share sound from the computer thing, that new option with Zoom is intended for when you want to share the sound of your computer without sharing a picture. That's what that's intended for. I just learned that. Eliana Light taught me that. So he's got it set right. That's the best quality. That's like full quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just what all his recordings sound like.
On the top of my computer, you gotta be patient because I'm a different generation than you people. On the top it says stop share in red. If
Yeah.
you stop it, what will happen?
Then we'll just see your face again. So go ahead and stop share. Perfect.
No, okay, so I want to start my talk without it, and then when I want to, because I don't want to, when I say the line in the pack, right, ha'arish b'chavura, I want to bring this up like this, and then I will go. No, but now I can. It doesn't open. Oh, here it is.
Ta-da.
Okay. Now, when 12 people are entered the waiting room for.
Yeah, don't do anything with that. We got you, Benny. We'll
Okay,
take
so
the waiting room.
stop sharing.
Yep, stop sharing. Ta-da! We got you. You got this.
Mike, I'm sorry for all the nudging I did for you. I did you.
All right.
My son-in-law taught me how to do the PowerPoint, and I'm now working on Glance already on PowerPoint. So don't.
Awesome.
It's gonna be great, Benny. I can't wait for it.
Because I want to when I talk, I will not talk while the music goes on, right? But if I lower my microphone here, you know that I just did the Mincha service. I am so hoarse because from Wednesday on, when my tribute was, until now, I haven't started talking. My computer is busting with emails. I can't even answer them. And I'm talking. Thank God I'm not doing Kabbalah Shabbat tomorrow. But next Shabbat is my last Shabbat, and then I'm a free agent.
Whoa.
You know that yesterday on Tuesday, I had a student in the morning. I went to Jerusalem for a Haredi wedding of my friend. Then I went to Germany to teach a Geiger student. I came home at bar mitzvah. I took my bicycle with my grandchildren. And then I went to Siberia because one of my students from Geiger is in Siberia with Corona.
Wow.
I'm not like Neil. I don't put a tie on because Ben-Gurion didn't wear a tie either.
And you can't be better than Ben Gurion. That would be too much, Benny.
No.
I couldn't sing.
So, Mike, I was telling Benny that for Benny's sake, we talked through what he wanted and didn't want. We're gonna keep people muted, and also I'm gonna let them know we're gonna wait and we're gonna let questions happen through chat at the very end. We're just gonna let Benny share.
When I read the script.
So are you going to keep the chat off?
Oh, I'm not. I'm gonna leave the chat on, but I'm gonna encourage people to wait till the end, and that if they have a burning question, they're welcome to send it to me, and I'll hang on to it for them.
Okay.
That was what I was.
Do you need any help from me?
I will try to get to the end, real quicker because I will make sure that if we have time, we do this. You have the link, right?
I do. I have a little interview video.
Hillary, it's only important because Alter's name in Hanover radiates now, 100 years later. It's unbelievable. They won't even call a street of his name. And the stories of these recordings, I didn't write it in, but I made myself note. The recordings were found after the war, went to South Africa. He immigrated to New York. He passed away. His daughter, my cousin, went to Israel because all his grandchildren are Haredi, ultra Haredi, and they love me because they say God sent you where you ended up. And my cousin gave me the recordings. I put it in my friend's basement. 3 years later, he says, either you take this, he said, take this crap from here. I took it to Canada. From Canada, it went back to Germany. And now I have these 3 incredible CDs. It's an unbelievable story.
You have treasures. You have treasures. Thank you.
You guys,
Benny, I can't wait for you to be a free agent so you can start going through all these files and figuring out what you can share with us.
Listen, I showed you. See this? This is 100s of drawers full of DVDs and 50 cassettes from 1980 and 1979 from Holy Blossom. I even have a recording, 2 CDs, 1958, when I was 14 to 2008. With the Bar Mitzvah, when I sang with Ravitz, and Yossi Malovani accompanied me when he was 15 and I was 14. And
well, Benny, just want you to know you're going to be busier in your retirement than you were when you were working.
Right.
We'll keep you busy.
And I really depend on you, young Joe. You should know something. The reason I'm a little bit reluctant and shy is because when I was in school, we only did a bachelor's degree, and I got my master's in Temple University afterwards, in whatever, voice and production, whatever, and history and conducting. But you guys did thesis because you are master degree, right?
Yeah.
We never did any kind of thesis or academic, Alter and Binder and Eric Werner tested us if you know Nusach.
Look at who's here. You will not believe who is in the waiting room.
Who?
Ruth Westheimer. I kid you not. Kid you not.
I met her with Mati Lazar, of course, at the choral festivals.
Well, have a blast. I think we should start letting people in then. I think that's the sign.
Okay, do you want me to handle the letting people in and I'll just be quiet?
Wait, one second, just 1 second.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
My virtual tribute, 6,000 people were on.
You deserve it, Benny, and more. All right, we're gonna let people in. That's very exciting. She's a big supporter of Hazamir. That's not surprising, but very exciting. Yes. Good evening and welcome everybody. As you come into the meeting, I want to encourage you, if you feel up to it, to turn on your videos. And everybody's going to be muted as you enter the room so that we can attune our ears to our teacher for the evening, our maestro for the evening. I want to offer some gratitude as we're all entering to Chazan Mike Weiss, who is admitting all of you as I speak. I guess I should change my name so you know who I am. I just realized that. And I welcome each and every one of you who are joining this evening. Quite a crowd from across the globe. If you would like to, I'll say a little bit more about questions and answers later, but if you do want to let us know where you're joining us from, you're more than welcome to do so in the chat. We want to use the chat healthfully tonight and share positive energy and not overshare in the chat box. But if you want to share with us, if you've been joining a lot of Cantors Assembly programs, it's nice to know where you're joining from. So you're welcome to share there. I am Hillary Chorney. I'm the cantor at Temple Beth Am in Los Angeles, California. I'm actually sitting here in San Diego, California right now, where it is only 5 in the evening. And hello in Austin, Texas, and Louisville, Kentucky, San Antonio, Chicago, Philly. This is fun. People with multiple shul affiliations, making sure to shout out to all of them. I like that. That's great. Nice to scroll through faces. Welcome, welcome. Some real MVPs in the room. It'd be lovely to make sure, by the way, if you're coming into the room, it should have done this already with your registration, but if for some reason your name is like Bob, it'd be great if you could change it to be your full name so that we know when we close out this meeting who was with us tonight and we can come back to you. And we'll start in earnest in just about 1 more minute. We just want to make sure there's enough time for everyone to be admitted to the room. Great, welcome, welcome. Look at all these wonderful people joining. Really quite the crowd. I imagine, I haven't checked, but I'm guessing that the president of the Cantors Assembly, David Lipp, Chazan David Lipp, must be on here because there is quite the crowd from Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, that Louisville is well represented here tonight. Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to begin by welcoming everybody formally here to this event, and then I'll offer a bio and an intro to our teacher for this evening. So welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you're here this evening. Again, I'm Hillary Chorney. I am the cantor at Temple Beth Am in Los Angeles, California, and in collaboration with the whole of Cantors Assembly and especially with Mike Weiss, who is also here this evening, I've been working on the production of this short but growing series called The Cantors Classroom. So welcome to The Cantors Classroom. I really hope you've been enjoying at least as much as I have all of the programming that's been coming out of the Cantors Assembly since we've all been in front of our screens the past few months. And this is just a little bit more of that because cantors are so much more than Bema dwellers and singers. We are out there and doing holy work that includes teaching. And we have a first extraordinary teacher this evening. I'll let him introduce us to his subject, but I want to introduce you to him to start. So, Cantor Beny Maissner. You just had a whole tribute to you. We're not going to give you a tribute-length bio, but I'll give you a quick one. One that is not nearly the length you deserve, but here you go. It's what you asked for. A short one, short but sweet. Cantor Maissner has been cantor and music director of Holy Blossom Temple in Toronto since 1979, and he has one Shabbat left in front of him. As of the Shabbat, he will be a free agent. As he puts it, he can't believe it. He has degrees from Hebrew Union College of Sacred Music and Temple University. Renowned for his knowledge of both secular and liturgical music, Cantor Maissner has mastered a variety of musical styles ranging from Jewish Renaissance and early Hebrew art music to contemporary Canadian, American, and Israeli compositions. Since his beginnings as a boy cantor with the famous Chazan Shlomo Ravitz, and Cantor Maissner has had a distinguished career. He has been a featured soloist in such theaters as the Mann Auditorium in Tel Aviv, the Jerusalem Theater, and New York's Carnegie Hall. In 1996, he performed with the San Francisco Symphony under the direction of Michael Tilson Thomas. This concert was in collaboration with the San Francisco Youth Orchestra and the Grateful Dead. He has also served as musical consultant for documentaries including To Mend the World and The Man Who Hid Anne Frank. Cantor Maissner teaches and lectures extensively, including tonight. In March 2001, he was recognized with an honorary doctorate in music from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. Thank you and welcome, Cantor Beny Maissner.
This is the short introduction. I hate to think what the long one is. I started by saying to myself how I'll introduce the program, but some of you know me from many, many years ago. In my first 15 years of my career in North America, my name was Alter's nephew. I had no other name, Alter's nephew. Thank God I matured. So I'm very, very privileged and really moved to be part of this series and experiencing all the other incredible evening that we that we experienced all the last period. And I thought that I would share some of personal and also global aspects of the great giant Israel Alter. But before I start, I want to share with you some paraphrase quotations from the great masters of the Golden Age, who described Alter like this. Many of us remember Akiva Zimmerman, who was a working encyclopedia and came many times in his 60s and 70s and 80s even to the convention. He knew everything about every cantor. And he wrote a few books describing different cantors of different eras and different locations. One of his books, Toldot HaChazanut Bevina, where he describes the glory and the beauty of Vienna cantors. He also describes in his books the very close relationship of Kaiser Franz Joseph to Sulzer. Of course, we all know about it, but all the other cantors that were in Vienna also benefited from a beautiful honoring position in the city. In one of his books, he calls Alter Ha'ari Shebachavura, the lion in the pack. You'll see later why. In the opening phrase, he says, Israel asher becha et pa'er. In you, Israel, I will find glory, et pa'er, tif'ara. David Druckmann says, Even hanezer ben peninei chaverai, a precious stone among my friends. Later, in 1940, my loyal and dear friend, superb in nigun, performance of wonders in the profession of Chazanut and the skills of Shaliach Tzibur. But the most beautiful, of course, Chaim Harris also talks about Alter crowned. Chaim Harris is a musicologist who describes Alter crowned with all the qualities and superlatives of our sages called a Chazan, a Shaliach Tzibur. But I wanted to get to this point because I witnessed it as a young boy. that Alter and Glantz, Leib Glantz, had a love affair. And so Glantz, whose Hebrew was better than Bialik, according to Bialik himself, says, המרומם את החזנות באישיותו, האש יוקדת מלבך. Fire bursts out from your neshama, and our generation is not worthy, as Glantz says, of us both, because we either were born too early or too late. And he said, ולהתחמם באורו, and to warm our soul in his light. Even Yosef Rosenblatt, at the dawn of his career, calls Israel Alter Harav HaTzadik HaShatz HaMefursam. But the most beautiful accolade was Akiva Zimmerman uses a phrase from Hoshanot, from Hoshana Rabbah, and I'll say it in Hebrew because it's beautiful. למען חייך מחרחר שיר, המלמד תורה בכל כלי שיר. For the sake of your life mumbles in a song, he who teaches Torah with every instrument of song. And now we're starting with sharing. I want to thank Hillary and Mike Wise for helping me. No. I can bring it up. Ah, okay. So we're starting. Just listen. Sorry. I stop it here because this is the only one that I took in full, but most of the other examples are with snippets describing the situation and the approach that Alter had to the different styles. And so I'm continuing now to go to show you. I have some pictures here for you to see while I'm talking about the man. We speak of him as a dean of cantors, a chazan's chazan, a genius, composer, arranger, teacher, pedagogue, as well as a Talmid Chacham. He possessed all those qualities and more, for he was a giant in the field of chazanut, the royal of royalties in his sacred profession. A special human being, a master in every nuance of tefillah, a role model to his peers and a shining light to his many students, men, women, stretching over decades. He left his mark upon all of us through his meticulous manuscript documented so skillfully in the anthologies of Nusach commissioned by the Cantors Assembly, which I was in the house living with him when he wrote them. So I never studied Alter with him. I studied Kachko in those days. These cherished treasures have become the backbones of teaching the skills of tefillah in every accredited cantorial school. Chazan Alter doctrine is held with the highest respect and admiration for his accuracy, imaginative colors, and the unpredictable, fresh appeal. Cantor Alters possessed God's magnificent vocal instrument, so unique and distinct in color and timbre, of a thrilling temperament. So here are some examples, again, only snippets of examples. So I'm stopping you because I want to continue. It's not a whole composition. You know that Hashkivenu, by the way, is not his composition. It's his brother's composition, whose name I'm after, Binyamin Ze'ev. The Hagen Badenu, of course, is Lewandowski. And the Hashkivenu, you'll hear some other traditional section. The Ritzeh, of course, is for the Me'en Sheva on Friday night. And when I said to him as a child, the Tzrulku, give me the music. I said, I'll give it to you, but who is going to sing it for you? So at this point, I want to go to another picture, 15 and 17, and talk about Israel Alter is a paradigm example of Chazanut HaSeder and Chazanut HaRegesh. In fact, Chazanut HaSefer is the third element, which I learned from my mentor, Professor and Chazan Joe Levin, who describes it very, very carefully. I'll talk about it later a little bit. With his unique interpretation of God's gift, his voice, he embodied the bridge between the awesome aristocratic Western European classical synagogue music and that of the East European deep emotional yearning of the traditional Chazan, Chazanut HaRegesh, and of course the art of the Baal Tefillah. Here are some more examples, but pay attention this time to the especially, and listen especially to the sostenuto, the legato, in the yearning and the pleading of his voice. So the five examples which go right away. I just want to put this pictures for you to also see him while we are listening, but I cannot keep the picture on, so I will just go to the next piece here, and Migdash Melech in Lecha Dodi of Sulzer, where he improvises it on the spot with the organist. I don't understand why. Okay, here we go. Listen to the sostenuto and to the impression with his East European Talmid Chochem kind of neshama as he puts it into the Western European tradition. I'll tell you an anecdote about Eric Werner and Israel Alter in the elevator in the 68th Street School in New York. But here's Yale. No, sorry. I just learned how to do the PowerPoint. Yale Chinonenu from the same Yale. I was privileged to sing it for the last 10 years at Holy Blossom, Reform Synagogue. I don't know why it is so difficult for me to get this right. Okay. So now we're moving a little bit more into the traditional realm, not yet exactly, but Beshamru by Linhard, not Israel Alter, but he sang it in Germany. And I just want you to listen to Berit Olam, the way he drays with this incredible, beautiful Western European, how he phrases the Berit Olam. Wait. Are you? So now Birkat HaChodesh is to last just little phrases. I don't understand why. The next phrase, you'll see later on with this Chaim, the dreidel, which I took years to learn how to do it. He said to me again, I'll give you the music, but who's going to teach you? That was when I was a teenager, of course. I just want to continue now with a different aspect of his life. And here is about the family. So this family, this is my grandmother, this is my grandfather. Both were executed in Minsk, in Malý-Tráštěník. These are two brothers of my mother, but I think that one of them, and I cannot identify, is Israel Alter. But what I wanted to show you is that he went back from Vienna, back to Lemberg to get married in a Kapota and a Streimel. Chazan Alter was born in Lemberg, Lvov, Poland in 1901. His family was noted to his line of distinguished rabbis. Young Israel was raised in a typical ultra-Hasidic home. In his childhood, Alter absorbed the flavor of his surrounding, namely from the Stiebel in Lemberg and Lvov, as well as from the Enlightenment mentality of Western Europe. He embodied the combination of a thinker and that of a Talmudic mind. His role model were the giants of Chazanic field in this time, like Samuel Markowski, Bugach, Israel ben Baruch Shor, and of course, Tzvi Halperin. Halperin was Alter's teacher and mentor. Halperin was close to Louis Napoleon and Kaiser Franz Joseph. Alter brother himself was a respected Chazan in Lemberg in the shul called Tur HaZahav. His Reb Yoshua Alter, his brother, he dedicated his famous Habet Mishamayim. With his family's distinction and fame in Torah, Reb Israel Alter had a solid Torah background. His father, Reb Moshe Elchonan, was the head of the Beit Din in Lemberg, and his brother, Reb Shmuel Alter, which I still remember when I came to the United States in 1965, he was an old man. He was in a hospital writing in Hebrew the 20th volume of Likutei Betar Likutei, which is Hasidic Yeshivas, they're studying in Likutei Besar Likutei, which is an unbelievable collection of Midrashim from Bereshit to the end of the Talmud, with all the Megillot and all the Sfarim and all the Mishnah. From an early age, God granted him with a unique and beautiful voice. By the time he was 7, young Israel was often called upon to chant a service in a local synagogue. He left for Vienna. But here is a story that I just remembered. He telling me that he was 7 or 8 years old, or something like this. His father took him to a gathering or assembly of rabbis, and they asked from the little boy to sing something, improvise something from the Mishnah. That is when he sang for the first time his famous Akavia ben Mahalel, which of course today is not known as Israel Alter, but as Moshe Kosevitsky, because he did it vertaishtem verbessert. He actually asked me if I ever record it, I should record it in the original form. But then I said, they will say, ze lo ze, it's not that. So I have not recorded yet. I don't have the guts to do it. He left for Vienna to the State Academy of Music and Art. He also studied Chazanut with the two most distinguished cantors of Vienna, Yitzhak Tzvi Halperin and Leib Schmiller. Leib Schmiller influenced him so much that his Ani Ma'amin is very similar to the original Ani Ma'amin of Leib Schmiller. At 20, he took a cantorial position in Vienna, serving there 3 years, and in 25, the Jewish community of Hanover, Germany, invited him to serve as an Oberkantor in the Neue Synagoge Gemeinde, of course, the traditional, the synagogue, Orthodox synagogue. There must be an organ there, but only used for weddings and weekdays or secular days other than Shabbat and Yom Tov. There he remained for 10 years. During the period, Alter continued appearances and leading synagogues and concert halls all over Europe in 29 and 30. I want to show you something now, which, if you go to Israel, to the music library in Yerushalayim, when you walk into the music department, there are 2 big posters of Alter in Carnegie Hall, and this one again, Alter, and this one again, Israel Alter. I found it, it's a little blurred, and then I recently just found Kosevitsky and Alter. Alter really performed in all over Europe with, even with Sirota, and with Kosevitsky and the great Chazanim of the past. With the rise of Nazism, Alter left Germany to become the cantor of the largest synagogue in Johannesburg, the United Hebrew Congregation. And he told me that he was on a ship leaving an audition in South Africa, and he wasn't going to take the job because all his family and everybody was in Vienna and in Hanover. But he heard on the ship the famous speech of Hitler announcing the laws of Nuremberg, the Nuremberg laws. And he cabled back, I'm taking the position. There he continued until 1961, when he moved to the United States and joined the faculty of the School of Sacred Music of the Hebrew Union College in New York. It was there that he made his mark on the younger generation of cantors. His special and unique personality helped develop and raise a whole generation of young cantors steeped in Nusach and traditional cantorial art. Just bear with me because I didn't. While in Hanover, in 1926, a year after he came, he made a series of recordings on Parlophone, a permanent German label. These recordings disappeared from the market during the troubled years of the war, of course. Nearly 2 decades after the masters were found, a group of these recordings were reissued in LPs, of course, released in England on the Parlophone company, which later recorded the Beatles, and the British EMI, and in the United States, Collectors Guild. Many of our generation cantors will have those LPs or those LPs, and these are the original recordings that were found after the war without a scratch, which later I'll tell you where they ended up in Hanover in 1988, the 50th anniversary of Kristallnacht, when I sang there. And this gentleman, Professor Andre Izak, knew about those recordings, and he chased them from Alter's family in United States and never gave it to him until he found out that I have it. And of course, they did a very, very big exhibition based upon the material that I had in the scrapbook that he gave me, or his daughter gave me later. There was an entire exhibition. It was on the year. No, it was not on the when the Cantors Assembly went to Germany. We honored this professor Andre Izak, but here I give him the original matratzen, they called, which is only recorded on one side, and underneath is the emblem of the original recording. Okay, so leave it this way, and I will go back to whatever we need to do. This, of course, is outside where the synagogue was. There's a whole display and a memorial area altogether. So let's talk a little bit about his chazanut. What is so unique in Alter's chazanut is the variety of style, colors, expressions, and consistent vocal line with a smooth legato. His distinct style, flair, both in the Western musical tradition as well as the East European chazanut, reveals him as a unique and a master chazan. Dignity, piety, deep religiosity drives his uniqueness. But above all, it is his Jewish neshama, which comes through in his artistry. The bond and commitment to the sacred text was always and will be always his trademark. Listen and pay attention this time to the executing of a line, of a phraseology, and commitment to whatever the style may be, whether it was a Western European Lewandowski Matovu, solo in the middle, or Zulzer Ahafti, Adonai Ahafti from the Shlosh Midot. No, that's of course in Matovu, in Birkat HaChodesh, in Hashkivenu. So number 10. So you see how he executes a most incredible line of Lewandowski, where he brings his own artistry in it. But now you want to see a little dreidel, which will blow your Here's another traditional phrase from the Hashkivenu that I talked to you before. I'm touching the wrong thing here. Bear with me, please. I'm sorry. So you get the point. I didn't do the whole Hashkivenu, is very, very long, but I just wanted to show you the difference between the Western European and the East European. And so before I quote something from the 1930s critics, I remember Eric Werner, Professor Eric Werner and Israel Alter in the elevator, and Eric Werner asked him in his German accent, Herr Cantor Alter, how old were you? Wie alt waren Sie when you were singing this incredible repertoire? He says, 24. Can you believe that voice at 24? But of course, he paid for it because he competed with the Kosebitskis and the East European Hirschman. But if you see that every dreidel and everything is so meticulously prepared. So just one or two quotes. Chazan Alter's voice has been described as a tenor of generous volume and unusual range, notably fluency, expressive effectiveness, New York Times, March 6, 31. Impressive in creating an almost mystical atmosphere, New York Times, March 6, 1930. Having immense power with an overwhelming passion of sorrow and piety, New York Times, March 24, 1934. It was after It was after arriving in the United States in 1960, when he began teaching at the HSC, as mentioned before, that Alter began influencing the next generation of cantors. It was here where he indicated, as I indicated earlier, that his personal and unique Chazanut HaSefer made its mark upon our student, and I'll explain it in a minute. And upon the text, upon the next generation of cantors who studied under him or coached with him, or even later, the people that studied with Alter, some of our colleagues really got into his mindset of his approach to Chazanut. And of course, all of them are in the incredible books and the Cantors Assembly Commissions. Alter's Chazanut is clearly text-driven. Through his technique, he insists and committed to every orderly, intellectual, and direct approach to the meaning of the text. To him, the foremost obligation of a Chazan is to adhere to the interpretive nature of prayer language. In his later publication, as I said, the anthologies of commissioned by the Cantors Assembly, we witness a profound pedagogical approach and unique qualities. An approach revered and treasured by all streams of Judaism, Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, who have the insight into bringing the worshiper closer to the divine and his creation. An entire generation of students of Chazanut have benefited from coaching and studying with Cantor Alter. In his method, he exemplifies the relationship between the two cantorial worlds that I said. In fact, Alter combined Chazanut HaRegesh, Chazanut HaSefer, and Chazanut HaSeder, the order of Chazanut. Here, the text and the emphasis of every detailed nuance is of utmost importance. Alter taught the Torah of the sacred song through the vessel of his throat and his neshama, his mind. What Alter tried to instill so profoundly upon his students was the sensitive application of phraseology in any particular text. Any given prayer was handled in such a special way so that the worshiper would notice and live the uniqueness of the moment in the liturgy. He had a way of painting phrases with the innermost hidden meaning of even the most obviously simple prayer text. Many of us remember and have fond memories of Revered Chazan Alter in the conventions, walking around with Misha Alexandrovich and with Moshe Gensrov, arguing and talking and trying and draying, and all of us younger generation were in awe. I mean, I was there when he wrote Hashish Halviyim Utikanta Shabbat. That was an argument, a dialogue between him and Gensrov, where we young Chazonim were standing around it and also incredibly be impressed, and aura was around it. Now, it's not time yet, but I'm going to skip because I told Hillary that I have a section of my personal relationship, a long section and a short section. So I'll do the short section because I want to share with you some other thoughts. So my personal relationship, my personal reflection of my uncle Israel Alter can be divided into 3 stages. The first one was during my infancy, the second during my adult lesson, and the third one in my adulthood. My earliest childhood memories must have been from the time 1947-49, where he came to Israel, to Jerusalem, to audition for Yeshurun, where to this day, the blessed Asher Heinovitz is still the Chazan. By the time Bar Mitzvah, my second stage, his imprint was overwhelming. I do remember well his warm hand holding onto me, walking home from Kabbalat Shabbat from Bilu school, where Ravitz, who admired, Shlomo Ravitz, who admired Israel Alter, held my hand so warmly, but never said a word. And I was curious, is any relationship between his warm hand of approval or his silence, which came up to me, of course, later on when I arrived at the Union College. The third encounter began in 1965 when I arrived in New York to attend HUC, the Hebrew Union College, the Sacred Music, where Alter was teaching. Through his personal coaching sessions, it all became clear. He tried to help each of his Talmidim. Of course, I skipped a very important section because I was very disappointed. I came to the United States to study with Alter and Genshov, and I had to take all these courses that I didn't have to pass because the school was 5 years, and in 2 years I finished the school. But Paul Steinberg, the dean, insisted that I'm another year in New York for the certification or for the investment. But some of our friends say that, especially one friend who is probably on here too, says, Beny came, I was 2 years in school, he left, I was still 3 years later in school. But in any case, what he instilled in all of us is the same clarity of mind and the same commitment to the text, which he had for himself. Who can forget the famous trademark? With his heroic voice and moved mountains, he made the text come alive. And many of us remember the two German words that he said always, die Stimmung, the style, the feeling, and to be obligated to the text itself. I just want to skip a couple of things here so people have some questions. I just wanted to hear the original recording of Lecha Dodi by Sulzer, the way he opens the phrase. I want to take you on a very short journey. We're talking about now 21st century and the last part of the 20th century. Since the 80s, I've been in Germany many, many times. I even received from the president of Germany the Kreuzverdienst, the Verdienstkreuz, the Cross of Merit, because of my work in Hanover especially. But at one point in Toronto, there was an exhibition and we saw reconstructed virtually inside of many synagogues that were burned. So here is a few of them that you can see. That was the synagogue, of course, according to information about the synagogue that was still kept. Outside, and this is what happened on the 10th of January. This is what it is now. This monument is between two churches. It used to be called Tolerantenstraße, the street of the tolerance. On one side is the Catholic Church and the other one is the Lutheran Church. And on the frame, of course, this is the memorial thing. And many times it only opens in the memorial days. You see, there was established and built in 1870, and you see the crack here, 1938. And it was in 1988 where I was there in an incredible 50 years of memorial, where non-Jews, Muslim, Christians, and Jews gathered together. This was put by a German high school group. And this is the model of the synagogue in the museum. And these are outside on that wall that I showed you before, right to the right, to the right of it. So then we went to all this stuff that we talked about before. And I want to share with you something that I received when I was probably 10 years old. His first book publication, לבני היקר כבן והיה כנגן המנגן, והסתכל בספרי. He was really a poet because he spoke Hebrew, poetic Hebrew very fluently. Tafshin Tetvav, that was 56. So he gave it to me. Now, I told you the story about the recording. So this Ando Izak, the professor who, it's also a story by itself, the Center for European Jewish Music is now stationed in a very incredibly beautiful Villa Seligman that belonged to a very industrious Jew who sold it in the 20s. And the Nazis, of course, took it over. They became part of the music school. But this Ando Izak that I showed you before, this guy here, promised me if I give him the originals, he will do 3 recordings, which I have plenty of them, and you can have it. There's no shortage of them because I can always I have all the rights to it. But of course, in that years later, when we came to Germany, the night before the convention began was as a dedication to this Ando Izak for what he did with the Center for Jewish Music. And we brought about 15 or 16 cantors who were in Berlin already, among my dearest friend, one of my dearest friends, Jackie Mendelssohn. And we stood in front of that of this monument I showed you before. And here is what it is. ילדים וילדות כולם קדושים ונהרגו ושנשחטו ושנשרפו ושנחנקו חיים ונקברו חיים על קידוש השם על ידי השרפים הנאצים ועושריהם יימח שמם וזכרם שיענו מתפללים לאלוהי נשמותיהם לגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. That phrase was a Glanzian phrase, getting into major there in Began Eden Teh Menuchatam. Okay, I'm a Yekke, so we started at 10 after, and I want to finish before my hours is over. And I have something that, if Hillary can do this last January, we were in Hanover in this convention, which was the European Association of Cantors of Europe. And the night after the convention, we had this incredible, unbelievable night project that Jerry Glantz, my dearest friend from childhood, because Glantz and I lived 4 houses from each other, and I grew up, I don't know if he's here today, but tomorrow I'll send him the, anyway, the television came and interviewed me. A lot of it is in German, but you will get the gist of it, because they still talk about Israel Alter. And this was viewed by about 40 million people. There was a lower section television. So if you just want to put a little bit of it, and then we'll stop. And then I have one more last phrase of a surprise for you of Israel Alter.
Okay, you'll tell us when to stop, Beny. I'm playing.
Das ist Beny Maissner, genannt Beny. Mit seiner Frau ist er aus Toronto gekommen. Wir gehen mit ihm an den Platz, wo sein Onkel Israel Alter damals Kantor war. Der Vorbeter in der Synagoge, die genau hier stand, bis die Nazis sie zerstörten.
As soon as I stand here, sofort wie ich stehe hier, kann ich seine gewaltige Stimme hören, weil war ein Wagnerian Tenor, ein Heldentenor, wie man sagt. Und the memories of having
die Erinnerungen, dass das genau hier war, sind unbeschreiblich. Spurensuche in der Villa Seligmann, dem Ort für traditionelle jüdische Musik in Hannover. Hier sind die alten Aufnahmen von Bennys Onkel auf Schellackplatten. Israel Alter hat sie in den 20er Jahren aufgenommen. Die Platten überstanden den Krieg in einem Keller in Hannover. Danach kamen sie nach einer kleinen Odyssee zunächst nach Israel. Ich habe es mit einem Freund besprochen. Er meinte, die Aufnahmen sollten dorthin zurück, wo sie entstanden sind. Und so habe ich beschlossen, sie der Villa Seligmann zu geben. Hier sollen sie in Frieden bleiben. Die Villa Seligmann wird in diesem Jahr vor dem Holocaust-Gedenktag zum Treffpunkt für Kantoren aus der ganzen Welt. Aus Prag, Manchester, Braunschweig und eben Toronto. Vorgestern steigt dann ein improvisiertes Konzert. Auch mit dem Neffen des letzten Kantors von Hannover. Seit einigen Jahren erinnern in Hannover Stolpersteine an die Familie. Israel Alter hat überlebt, er konnte rechtzeitig fliehen. Seine Eltern und viele Geschwister aber wurden ermordet.
I get very emotional. It makes me sad to see what was lost.
Mich macht es immer sehr traurig zu sehen, was alles verloren gegangen ist. Und trotzdem, solange wir dafür sorgen, dass es nie wieder passiert, ist es gut, hier zu sein.
And try to make sure it doesn't happen again. It's very worthwhile
Hier.
It's a global problem of fighting anti-Semitism, and of course
Antisemitismus ist ein globales Problem und darum geht es auch in diesem Night-Konzert, gegen Hass und Gewalt überall auf der Welt zu kämpfen.
And against violence, which the whole world is suffering today.
Beny Maissner wird heute Abend auch beim Gedenkkonzert singen. Für ihn ist es ein Kreis, der sich schließt. Er ist sicher, dass sein Onkel stolz auf ihn gewesen wäre.
Okay. Hilary, I didn't see it because I had the PowerPoint. So I leave you with one, coming back to Israel Alter. The most incredible piece that I always treasured is the solo line in the Adon Olam by Solzo. So I will leave you with this memory of this last, oh no, where is it? Oh, it is at the back then. Of course. And of course, the choir goes on. I have a dream, which I hope will come through, that somebody told me that I need to record not his concert pieces, which many people sing and record and perform, but all the Nusach books, Slichot, Shabbat, Festival, High Holidays, and he has a whole album of Yiddish song, Meine Lieder. So for posterity, the Nusach, I take upon myself to record all these books. So it'll be for the younger generation, especially a lot of cantors that are studying in Israel, especially all the in Machon LeMuzik Hanover Tel Aviv. Not everybody reads the music, but it was really Naftali Hershtik's son, Nathaniel, who told me that is my obligation, being Alter's nephew, that I need to record it. So I hope that I can do it, and I hope to be busy after July 1st. I'm gone, and it was really, I'm very proud to be called Alter's nephew. I hope you enjoyed part of it, and the stentorian voice of this incredible person. It wasn't so an easy person to get along with, but he was something special. For many, 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 even though who did not study with him, if you study the books, you see what every eighth note and every 16th note and every appoggiatura is a treasure.
Well, Beny, while you are hopefully stopping the screen share just so we can see your big wonderful smile as you close this beautiful program, thank you. Kol hakavod lecha. Really, I agree with everybody who in the comments said that this was a quick hour in the best possible sense. It was incredible to hear from you in a personal way, in a scholarly way, in a musical way. We do want to give some space for people who have a few questions. There are a few wonderful questions. If people want to stick around, I actually want to, because I know that some people will pop off. It's already 9:15 on the East Coast. I first want to front load this with what might be coming next in case people disappear, and then open for questions if that's okay, because I know some people might be heading to bed. We've been joined by over 100 people all evening, and that's just so wonderful. So I want to say I hope you continue to join us for this series. Join us on Sunday at either 1 if you're on the West Coast or 4 if you're on the East Coast for Bata Moses, for Chazan Bata Moses and the art and Jewish connections with Broadway for the next in this Cantors Classroom series. And I want to encourage you that if you're enjoying these programs that we're offering, the Cantors Classroom and so many others, that if you're in the position to do so, and I know not everyone is, it's a tight time, that you do support the Cantors Assembly in these programs and in everything else that we do. Right now in the chat, I'm just putting in a link for those who might want to support this work and the other work that we're doing. We welcome you to do so if you're in the position to do so, and to keep joining us. And you can use that website also to find other things that we're doing. And thank you again to Mike Weiss for all the work that you're doing to put together these wonderful programs. So let's return to the options of asking some more questions. And please, maybe you can ask some questions in the chat box since we still are over 100 people here. And while people are putting some questions for Beny in the chat, I want to offer up a wonderful question, Beny, that somebody put in the chat box that Mike and it caught both of our attention. This was a question from Ron Sternberg, which was, did your uncle formally leave Hasidism at any time? Did he depart from it entirely?
From what I understand, and I know that he was a modern Orthodox Jew, modern Orthodox. He lived in Brooklyn, and the kids went to Shulamis in Borough Park, and then all became Haredi because they all made Aliyah. But he was a very enlightened man. How can he be in the Hasidic world if the first woman cantor came to the room at AGC and trembling, and he said to Kindleben, setz sich weg, sits down, and I will teach you. He was the first one who taught the woman cantor. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And I know that he was, used to go out to restaurants, and he was a very modern man. He also was very good looking. But before any other questions, I just want to tell you, Hillary and Mike and everybody, that I'm so humbled by being asked to do this. And I can't tell you how overwhelmed I am with the response and with the gratitude. And I'm really so much in gratitude to the Assembly, which is my love from 1965, when I didn't speak English. Some people here probably say I still don't speak English.
Just enough, Beny, just enough English to teach us so beautifully today. So thank you for that. I can't amplify. I hope you take the time, if we're able to let you read through all of the kavod that is coming to you through this chat box. Here's a question towards you. Could you maybe speak about the question? Could you maybe speak to the question of the relationship between Alter and Cantor Leibglans?
The only thing I can relate to you is that I was 10 years old in 1950, 1984 when Glantz came to Israel. And I lived, if you don't Tel Aviv, between Dizengoff and Ben Gurion Boulevard. So Glantz lived between Dizengoff and Rhines, and I lived on Rhines. And so between Glantz's home and his synagogue in the street Hermann Akroin, Tiferet Tzvi, if I get the opportunity to talk about Glantz, I have some pictures of Glantz too, not as many, of course, but I remember walking behind them and not understanding one word they were talking about cantillation and Zacharti Lach is from the Haftarah and this and that. I didn't understand one thing. And I had another uncle, Brenner, who was a great Baal Tefillah, who took me to Glantz I was at the Glantz with Jerry, his son, at the Slichot, the first Slichot, with 5,000 people outside, because the synagogue only has 200-300 seats, from 12 to 3 in the morning. And I was 10 years old, and I was standing there, and my uncle, the Baal Tefillah, started to laugh. So I said to him in German, David, warum lachst du? Why do you laugh? He says, this is Chazonis. Then Alter and Glantz became really belev nefesh, incredible colleagues and between the synagogue and back to Glantz's house, they both came up to my mother to eat the gefilte fish on Saturday morning after the service. So it was a very, very close relationship. And they I mean, not like Genschow and Alter, who were much closer in terms of the immediate creation of some of the pieces that Alter wrote or Genschow wrote. I'm sure that Genschow's piece of Le'el Orach Din has a lot of influence of Alter, which I sing on my Yom Kippur. Imagine, at Holy Blossom, Genschow's Le'el Orach Din. I know that my successor will do incredible there. David Rosen, who is incredible cantor, and I know him since he was 6, but that's not about David Rosen now. It's about Alter. Anyway, so yes, the relationship was incredible.
And quite the legacy that you've created for Reform High Holy Day services. That's the class I want you to teach next, is about High Holy Day services and choral singing, but that's for another class. Someone else is asking also about another relationship that Alter had, actually a few relationships. Going back to one of the posters that you had in your presentation, you had a wonderful program or poster of Alter and Kusevitsky. I actually don't know which it was of, but Elaine Jacobson is asking about the relationship between Alter and the Kusevitskys. There were multiple ones of them. So what about that relationship or those relationships?
Listen, I think that we in the cantor became a little bit more mature than in the older generation. There was a lot of jealousy and envy and everything. But in the early days, and Alter told me that he traveled with Kusevitsky in East Europe and in many, many places and stuff. But when I came to the United States, I lived with Alter in Borough Park, and Mary Simon knows exactly where it was because he was there with me. And so Robert Kival and New Utrecht exit there, right next to Bet El and Temple Emmanuel, where David Kusevitsky was. I wasn't aware so much of the relationship between Alter and David Kusevitsky. David Kusevitsky, of course, taught at the seminary at the JTS and Alter at the HUC. I don't think that there were any relationship, but in the early days in Europe, I know that they were traveling together and concerting together. If they sang duets or not, I don't know.
I don't see any other questions in the chat box, but I am going to close with one question that Mike threw out there and that you kind of hinted at in your presentation. So here's one last question for you, unless you have anything else to add. I'll leave the last word to you, whether it's on this or anything else of your choosing. But here's a last question. What did you mean when you said he paid for it? You know, all that singing. And at 24, singing in that he did. What did you mean by he paid for it?
Because some of us that lived in the period where he was teaching, he didn't have this glorious voice anymore. But of course, his kavanah and the teaching and the approach to it was absolutely incredible. So these recordings that this Andor Izak in Germany did for me, for us, for the world, has some things that he recorded later. Like Ani Ma'amin, it's like a worn out baritone with very high notes. And then very recently, even in Bob Kival's listening room, there were some recordings that I was not aware of where he really sings in a baritone tessitura with incredible high note. I would say, and he told me once, that for 5 years in the Conservatory of Vienna, which is nothing to laugh about, right? The faculty couldn't decide for 5 years if he was a baritone or a tenor. Because if you hear and then, so he had a colossal, incredible range. He told me once in secret when we went on the subway back home, I think even with Jackie Mendelssohn, because Jackie was living right around there and we all were together. He told me that he says, in Yiddish, of course, if I would know now what I didn't know then, I would be better off. He sang, I don't say that he abused his voice, but he sang very heavy, because you can see that he sings even the I mean, that sounds like a Wagnerian tenor. But and of course in the interview with the German television, I spoke about that that he had a Wagnerian tenor. He told me that he oversang in his youth. So he paid for it because he didn't sing. When he came to my bar mitzvah, which was 1957, now you know how old I am, the year after my bar mitzvah, when he started to sing, he said, Uncle Sokol, please sing something. So he started to sing, and I looked at my mother, and we looked at each other, because we remember the old recordings that we received in the early 50s, made 78 from these original ones. Everybody in the family got a big album of these recordings.
Beny, thank you for everything, for you, for your teaching, for tonight, and for a lifetime of service and for what's to come. We really look forward to more. And thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. And we hope you join us for the next ones. Just by having joined, I believe I got this right, that by having joined tonight, you now have the link to join us for all of the future ones, which means that if you pay attention on Facebook or to the link in the registration, it means that if you look back, you've got all the dates and times for the upcoming ones. I hope to see you Sunday or to the following Thursday for, I believe that's David Tillman, right? Chazan David Tillman will be the following one on Bernstein, I believe. So just keep tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great night.
I have one question before we go. Most of my friends in Israel, in Australia, could not stay up now. Is going to be a recording of it. Of course, you told me it's recorded.
Yes, there's a recording of this, and we will get it to you. And if anybody wants it to, you can be in touch with me or with Mike Weiss or anybody else from the Cantors Assembly.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Laila Tov, everyone. Bye.